All right, guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Sports 2.0 show. I'm Will Reed. I'm here with Vincent Graziano, and we're going to be talking about the Heisman Trophy preview. We're going to be giving you guys a few picks, a few sleepers, and have a good show. How you doing, Vincent?
I'm good. How's it going, Will?
Pretty good, pretty good. So you start. Let's start off with you. Who do you got as your top guy going in for the Heisman Trophy race this year?
So this year I'm going to go with Sam Howell, quarterback out of UNC. UNC's never put forth a Heisman Trophy winner, and I think Sam is going to be the best quarterback in this in the entire country and in this entire draft class as well. Last season, he went 237 for 348 with 3,586 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He had a big arm, accurate passer, and I think he's the most pro-ready out of any quarterback in college football right now.
Yeah, I like that pick. For me, it feels like Sam Howell's been in college for forever, even though he's only entering his junior year. I mean, he started off as a true freshman, made it to the Military Bowl, won Military Bowl MVP. Last year, he led UNC to the Orange Bowl, even though he lost to Texas A&M. They still had a great season. I think that's a great pick. For me, I'm going to look at JT Daniels out of Georgia. I think he's kind of had an up and down career so far. When you look at his college career, he started as a five-star recruit going into USC, won the job as a true freshman, but they went 5-7. They kind of had a down year for USC standards. Going into his sophomore year, he tore his ACL, and then he lost his job to Kadon Slovis. So that's why he ended up transferring to Georgia. But last year, after he ended up filling in for DeJuan Mathis, he had a 4-0 record and led them all the way to the Peach Bowl. So I think JT Daniels has some real upside potential if you look at people who have some good college experience under their belt.
Yeah, I think JT is a great pick. I mean, I think it's going to be tough for him in a conference where a lot of defense is played, but I think he's definitely got a big arm and he's got a good talent around him.
Is there any other people you had your eyes on? Any other candidates?
Well, obviously there's Spencer Rattler, who's currently the betting favorite. He's got a pretty good year under his belt last season, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I think Spencer Rattler is going to be an interesting guy because anyone in the Lincoln Riley offense is going to be able to succeed. They're going to put up big numbers in the Big 12. There's always shootouts. It's a very offensive conference. My only question with him is he's losing Charleston Rambo, one of his top receivers, who's headed to UMiami to pair up with De'Aaron King. But according to Pro Football Focus, Spencer had the highest passer accuracy out of all Power 5 returning Power 5 quarterbacks. This includes Howell. This includes any guy on that list. And I just think Rattler's got what it takes to be the Heisman next year.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of offense where you've got people who won Heisman's previously, you got Kyler Murray, you got Baker Mayfield was a Heisman candidate all of his years. It's kind of hard to bet against guys coming out of Oklahoma with those high-powered offenses. But what it's also hard to bet against is Alabama quarterbacks being in the race for Heisman trophies. We've got to add in Bryce Young to the conversation. He's a 5-star recruit, backed up Mac Jones all year. Not a lot to say about his college career. Didn't do much. Came in for a few snaps all last year, but you always got to add in the Alabama quarterbacks to the conversation.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. We didn't get to see much of him last year, which was surprising because Bama did win a lot of games in blowout fashion. But I think he, obviously being top recruit out of high school, I mean, he can get it done with his legs too, which is going to be interesting because we've seen a lot of guys in Bama's passing and Nick Saban's offense, like Mac Jones, be more of a pocket passer and drop back, 5-step drop, throw the deep ball. But I think Bryce Young's going to be interesting to see how he functions in Saban's offense.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting you brought up the whole mobility aspect of Bryce Young's game. Usually we see guys like I remember all the way back about maybe 8 years ago with AJ McCarron was a Heisman candidate. You got guys like him. Now you had Mac Jones last year, who was the candidate with him, his fellow teammate Devonta Smith. But usually they're those five-step dropbacks quarterbacks that you're saying. They not the typical mobile quarterbacks running outside the pocket, making plays with their feet. So I think that's really an interesting aspect for those guys.
So next, I think we go with so next we have DJ. It's going to be hard to pronounce this, but I think he goes by Uiagalelei. Not positive.
I think it's Viagelelei.
Yeah, something crazy. But I mean, we got to see a little bit of him. He started 2 games, one against BC and one against Notre Dame, which they actually lost. But he went a combined 59 for 85, 781 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, as a freshman, he looked great under a lot of pressure. Huge game. Obviously, they lost to Notre Dame, but the defense was no help. And I think obviously having to follow up a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who's a generational talent and is going to be – he was the number 1 pick in the draft and could be one of the best rookies next season. It's going to be tough, but I think he'll be able to step up. He looked very composed in the games he played, and he didn't look like the moment was too big for him. So I think the experience he got this year is going to help him going into next year. He's going to feel like he already belongs, and he's not going to feel like he's starting as like his first game. He's already got a couple games under his belt.
Yeah, I think that experience is key. He's the heir apparent to the Clemson quarterback throne. T-Law leaving last year. T-Law was the heir apparent to Deshaun Watson and other guys before him. So I think his really impressive performances last year against BC and Notre Dame are really going to be key to his Heisman push this year. And then I think sometimes you got to add in a little running back to the list. So we got Bijan Robinson from Texas. Had a great true freshman year last year. Put up some big names, especially in his bowl game in the Alamo Bowl. He had 10 carries for 183 yards and a touchdown. What do you think about Bijan Robinson?
Yeah, so he's an interesting guy. He split carries last year with another running back, and also he had to split. Well, actually, Sam Ehlinger out-carried him. He had a lot of rushing attempts. Sam was a great rushing quarterback. But what's interesting is he rushed for 703 yards, which was 3rd in the entire Big 12 conference, despite splitting these carries. And he also led the Big 12 in yards per attempt with around 8.2. So I think going off of his base, and he's going to take over majority carries, I think it's going to be amazing to watch this kid play. And I think he's going to do big things for Texas next year.
Yeah, Ehlinger being gone really opens up that Texas offense for Bijan, just kind of run with it and take everything to the house. So like we mentioned earlier, we both have a few sleeper picks. Vincent, how about you go first? Who's your sleeper pick this year for the Heisman?
So my guy is John Metchie. He's a wide receiver out of Alabama. And I know I was talking to one of my buddies before. He said hasn't been a wide receiver back-to-back in forever. And so it's going to be interesting. I think Metchie is kind of comparable to Devontae Smith. He's got explosive speed. And last season, he caught 55 passes for 916 yards, and he was the 3rd option. I mean, he was behind Devontae Smith and Najee Harris, who both had Heisman seasons, obviously Smith winning the Heisman. And I think he would have even been the 4th option if Waddle was healthy throughout the year. But I think it was amazing what we got to see him do. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if how he matches with Bryce Young and how that whole duo works out. He was top 10 in the SEC in all receiving categories, even as the 3rd option. So him coming in to be the number 1 option next year, it's going to be amazing to watch him play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember you mentioned earlier he kind of has that same build to Devonta Smith, kind of small, lengthy. They got that quick stitch of a step. I think he has a real chance to blossom in that Alabama offense. I was going to go with Grayson McCall, a non-Power 5 quarterback out of Coastal Carolina. Last year, they made some big noise. They went undefeated. Obviously, non-Power 5 teams don't have a lot of argument or say into getting into those college football championships or to those big bowl games. But if he can follow up the undefeated year last year that he had with another big-time year this year, I think he can put his name into the conversation. However, they only have one Power 5 game this year going up against Kansas, so he doesn't have a lot of opportunity to showcase his talent. But he did throw 26 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions last year. He had about 2,700 yards through the air. So I think he has some potential to put his name in the conversation. I also wanted to bring up Derek King out of Miami. He is coming off of that torn ACL that he had in the Cheez-It Bowl last year. But he should be ready for the season upcoming. And you mentioned earlier he's getting a big-time weapon in Charleston Rambo. So I think adding him to the offense, if Derek can kind of mimic his production from last year. He had a lot of big numbers through the air and through the ground. Keep Miami in the top 10 race, maybe get them into the college football playoff. It's going to be hard to bet against his story coming off of a torn ACL.
Yeah, no, this conference is going to be stacked with quarterbacks, obviously, with DJ and Howell as well. This is going to be an interesting conference to watch all season long. I mean, the ACC is rising through the ranks of all college football conferences. And I think all across the country, we're seeing lots more talent at the quarterback position, and this is going to make for a pretty crazy Heisman race. I mean, it's going to be who jumps out and takes over early in the season, and then who can hold on throughout the rest of the year. But what's key is going to be winning games. I mean, Derek King did a great job last year. The defense also did a great job, but they just sent a ton of guys to the NFL, so it's going to be interesting to see how they do when they come back. And I'm pretty sure Manny Diaz also is taking over the defense, so it's going to be an interesting team to watch.
Yeah, he sent a lot of guys to the NFL, but I think the key position is going to be protecting Derek King after that torn ACL, and luckily they didn't lose many. I don't think they lost any offensive linemen to the draft. So they got a lot of guys coming back, a lot of people with experience coming back to help protect Derek King in that ACL. Any other thoughts on this Heisman race, Vincent?
No, I think it's going to be a good race. I mean, it's always very quarterback heavy, but I'd like to see some other guys get their names in the mix. Even we didn't talk about Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama, the running back who's stepping in for Najee Harris, and there's a few other guys who I'm going to be excited to watch throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, I was a defensive guy in high school. I'm hoping a defensive player can kind of step up and maybe get one of the first Heisman trophies for a defender in a long, long time. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen with all those top quarterbacks that we named, but hopefully we see something like that in the future. All right, I think that's going to be it for our Sports 2.0 show. I'm Will Reed. I was here with Vincent Graziano discussing the 2021 Heisman Trophy candidates. Follow us on our sports pages, Sports 2.0 Network on Twitter and Instagram, and I hope you guys have a good day.